All right, welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. If you're just joining us, as I usually say, you are on time for the first conversation of the day. You have missed a little bit of catch up and brief between me and Sakwa, but not to worry, you are going to enjoy this one as well because we're talking on a matter that concerns you and something that is actually happening currently, and that is navigating Kenya's online maze. There's a lot happening on social media, so how do you go through that space? How do you know that this is fact, this is false? How do you choose to know that you're not supposed to go with your emotions and all that? For this particular discussion, I am joined by Duncan Maigwa. He's been here severally and to create an awareness on this particular area. He is the Strategic Communication Officer at Creco Kenya. Karibu sana, Duncan.
Thank you so much, Steph.
Glad to have you again.
Thank you. And I feel very much welcomed here once again.
Yes.
Because, you know, at times when you're back at the same place, it means that the people are hospitable. And I'm happy to be here.
We give good tea.
Yes. I can confirm.
That is great. This is a very important conversation to have, you know, with the current atmosphere that's in the country, you know, with what is being scheduled for tomorrow. We all know that there are demos to, and so basically anniversary of what happened last year on June 25th. Yeah. But even before that, there's been a lot that has been happening on the social media spaces, a lot of information that has been going around. So why do you think it's important for people to be part of this conversation?
Steph, let me first thank you so much and also thank this media house for creating time. And I think it's not anything to take for granted, especially now that we are talking about an online maze. It means that could be a space that causes confusion, that could confuse you, and then at some point you'd not be very sure whether this is what you should believe or not. And this conversation is important, Steph. And how important it is, because that is your question, is because we are rational beings. And when we talk about even the current generation with the young people, we want information. In fact, we want to get more information so that we can be informed. Everyone wants to be informed. Recently, there has been conversations on making internet as, is it a fourth basic need? Because it is a gateway to access to information. So the conversation on how important it is to know how to navigate the online space is very important, because there is a free flow of information, and if you are not careful, you run into confusion.
Okay,
yes.
And that's very true. But what would you say? How is the online space in Kenya looking like from where you're standing or from where you're seated?
I would describe the online space in Kenya as one dynamic.
Okay.
Very dynamic. I mean, today or this hour, it's this conversation. And by the way, if you're not very careful, you might also meet with a stray word, either coming from your fans or coming from perhaps anybody. Anybody would comment, and I would say it's quite dynamic and aggressive at the same time. It's a space that I must say, if it is not approached with a lot of sobriety, with a lot of calmness, then again you may find yourselves in a situation that yes, but then Steph, it's very likely if we wanted to trend today, we can trend. It's a very dynamic. Yes, it's fast paced. It's a very fast paced space, and looking into how Kenyans interact with internet or with the social media platforms, I think we rank very highly, even globally.
Exactly. I think globally, there was a time a research was done in Kenya was, if not top 3, number 1.
Yes.
People who spend most of their time online, like that is what we do.
Yes.
I think if we really found a way to harness the online space, would really empower ourselves economically, because if this is global trends and we are on top like that, then there's something for us.
For sure.
So we could say that it is a source of empowerment, but it is also a source of confusion at the
And
same
also
time.
begs the question of whether we truly have all this time as Kenyans. Is it that we are idle or...
Good question.
Yeah, I know it's debatable. It's debatable.
So some people would say we are idle, but
Yeah.
some people would say that people are
Yes.
making money from
Yes.
it. Okay.
Not really. I'm not very sure whether it's a lot of money.
So what are the what are the debates around?
Again, the debate is also many dynamics. That's why I talked about dynamic, because again, we are also talking about the cost of it, accessibility, and I think internet penetration in the country is quite good compared to quite a number of countries, even in Africa. Yes, so I think it's very interesting, Steph, that you mentioned that we are talking about navigating the online maze, and I think the use of the term maze was very strategic because
It's a lot.
it's very difficult, Steph, to define the online space from one dimension perspective. It's multidimensional. I mean, you can never look at it from one angle. So many angles. So when we talk about, like Mozilla Foundation did a research and released a report that was talking about from a dancing app to a political machinery. That was TikTok, and how TikTok played in the last years, in the last elections that we had in the country. So again, we ask ourselves, we are talking about earning. Again, we see so many people dancing on TikTok. Is that empowerment enough for the young people?
I don't think they earn, they also earn from TikTok, especially, unless they get the endorsements.
Okay. Very interesting. It's a very interesting one. That's why I said it's very debatable.
It is, truly. Yeah. But how do you see the young people currently, this generation, a bit mostly Gen Z, and there's another term I saw, millennials who are Gen Z. So this particular generation, how they're consuming information and news, how do you say that they are?
I would say it's an opportunity, but also a challenge at the same time, because what is happening now is that we have too much information, and too much of anything is also quite poisonous, because nowadays we are even talking about, we are now even actually, in fact, it has actually been a conversation even within government, and especially when it comes with how government sees regulating social media.
I was actually going to that.
But again, now trying to bring in the balancing act between now the freedom of expression and now regulation, because it's quite a very delicate balance. Yeah. And it is very easy for either to go overboard. Those who are expressing their freedoms can go overboard, and also those who are regulating can go overboard. So now bringing in a balance between that. So what now is happening is that now so many people are now accessing too much information. But again, now the biggest challenge comes in, Steph, that in the accessing of too much information, how do they determine that this specific piece of information is the one that I should actually run with? But
again, when you say, and you've said too much of something is poisonous, but they usually say information is power. So the more information you get, the better it is for you. You grow wiser and you're more aware of what is happening.
You're right, but correct information.
Correct information.
Whenever it's not correct information, then again,
is misleading.
It's misleading. It's misleading. Yes.
And that's where disinformation and misinformation come in.
Right there.
Just before we go into what you've already driven us to, I know we've talked about misinformation and disinformation before, but please highlight the difference to us again.
All right. So misinformation is information, is when we receive information that perhaps the intention, because actually the definition lies on the intention, the motive. Misinformation is when there is no motive to mislead. For instance, I can get some information somewhere, or maybe from you, and because I trust you, you're working with a very renowned media house and trustworthy media house as this one, and then you give me some information, and then I'll take that as gospel truth. In fact, I'll say Steph is interacting even with the reporter, so perhaps she knows the truth. And then perhaps maybe that information is not true. And then I'll go talk to a friend and then tell them that information. And it's false information. So when I give it to them, that will be misinformation because I did not intend to mislead. I simply actually didn't even know.
From your innocence of knowing this is this is true information, you give it
just
out.
like many of our parents out there, they see messages on WhatsApp, then they forward you, and they think that is gospel truth. Then now disinformation is when I present information intentionally. I know it's false, but I want to push it. I want to push it to an audience or to someone. That is now disinformation. Then now we have malinformation. That is true information, but now most of the time it's out of context, or it's information that shouldn't be out there, like how we've been seeing what we call character assassination, where we've seen even in the country, people go in lodgings, they take photos, they take videos, and then now they share with us on social media. I mean, why do we have to know that? Fine, that's Duncan, and it's not false. It's true information, but why should we know that? Then now that is malinformation. It's too much unnecessary information.
And we have seen that, especially amongst Kenyan celebrity with malinformation. Recently, the situation with Mulamwa and the ex-wife Ruth K, and it's unfortunate that can happen. And there are laws for that.
Yes, there are laws for that.
So what happens, just so that our audience also understands the importance of not, assassinating someone's character for whatsoever reason, no matter what kind of evidence you have on that person. So what are the laws in place if you share out very personal, sensitive information?
Okay, of course we've been having laws. We have the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act that now that's quite a more general law that talks about some of the misuse of the digital spaces. But of course we also have others, including the Elections Act, that also talks a bit on the kind of information that we propagate there, but in relation to elections in the country. But now, the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act, for instance, if you read this, Section 22 and Section 23, that talks about the publication of false information, we realize that when we talk about the digital space, it becomes quite different compared to the traditional media, and even how we regulate traditional media. So it becomes very difficult sometimes. If we are even talking about assassinating someone's character, even if you are talking about compensation, to what extent? And then how long do you live with it? Yes, because we've seen someone's character being in fact, actually we've even seen that, especially our leaders. I know they've been going through sleepless nights because for now they are giving statements, and then people will pull a tweet from so many years and then they'll bring it up, and sometimes you ask yourself, Steph, if someone takes out very inappropriate photos of you out there on social media, fine, you've taken them to court and then some compensation, but do you know what? Even 20 years down the line, that same video can still haunt you. How do we go about that then?
It's tricky.
It's very tricky.
It's hard.
Talk of AI, talk of the developments, some of the emerging technologies that we have within the digital space. They are evolving every day, every day. Actually, nowadays, actually yesterday I was looking at a video and I had thought it was true. In fact, I actually thought it was true. It was someone who was deep diving with a dog in some kind of a glass enclosure. And then at some point I was actually enjoying the video until later on, I noticed how the dog is interacting with the sharks, and I was like, no, wait, is this even true? This is not even true. Then looking a bit more closely, then you realize it's not actually true. So it's a very dynamic environment, and that's why even us, even as an organization, we've actually been pushing for what we call self-regulation, building the capacity of people, of the young people, and actually now having a conversation, and actually a very deliberate conversation on ethics. On ethics, yes. So that we are not talking only about laws, and you know it very well, Steph, that you can actually break a law so long as you're not caught. Yeah. So long as you're not caught, then it's not an offense. And that's why we also always talk about you are innocent until proven guilty. So the proving, the what we call the burden of proof. When you are proven guilty, then that means you've been caught. So if you're able to
make sure there's no proof.
Yes, that there's no proof, then you've not broken the law. It's a very interesting approach. So because we know that if you are not caught, then you have not broken any law. Then again, it means that laws cannot be what we call a panacea of all these issues that we are going through. Self-regulation is the key. People should know ethics, dignity. Treat your other person with dignity, and then you're not going now to assassinate their character. Yeah.
So that is the solution. Well, that is the solution that you're bringing forth. Self-regulation for people to know. But how long do you think this will take for you, especially in such an environment as this currently that we're in, where people have the emotions are heightened, you know, there's a lot happening? How will you tell me do not post, you know, against this person who you really, you know, angers you? So do not post about them. Yeah, because there are biases and everything. How do you see that working?
One thing I'm going to say is that it's not going to be easy. In fact, actually, myself, I know I've been a champion of digital hygiene. Actually, I think for the last 1 year, I've really been pushing this conversation. And to some extent, we've even actually gone to even universities, and sometimes you even realize it's like you are pushing it down their throats and telling them, hey, this is an important conversation. I mean, it is very important. But I must say that it is a slow but sure initiative, because as we continue to sensitize, we've been actually promoting what we call ambassadors of digital hygiene. When we train you, then you can train your peers, and then those peers again, they can train the other people. And I know with time, in fact, actually I was looking at because yesterday, and actually the war that is happening in Iran, Israel, and the like. US, actually, I think I saw the statement by Qatar, by Qatar, and it was talking about issues on information. In fact, there was the statement, the press statement was talking about how be very careful to verify the information that you receive with regards to the current situation. Now it's becoming a global conversation. But again, actually, I think one of the things that I would like to tell some of our youth and the people who are listening us, because this is a very youth-centered media house, I want to tell them that it looks fun, it looks cool until it gets to you. One of these fine days when you will be trending, you realize how serious this conversation is.
Because, you know, some people would be even uneasy that you're telling them you should not post everything online, you should fact check, you know, because I would just want to share what is happening, as long as, you know, it's in line with what I am feeling, it's in line with what I believe, you know, this is my, this blogger, I believe them, so whatever they give me is gospel truth and all that, so they would be uncomfortable with, because there was a sensitization done by a colleague from a different media house, and people were telling them, were telling him this is not the time, you know, because he was really educating them about what to post and what not to post on social media, and how the law would come to you if you go against it, and people were really on his throat, but he was innocently just passing out information, so you could feel that people are not very comfortable even with you telling. They feel like unawambia, you know, this una limit their freedom of expression.
In Kenya we have history of revolution. So and Kenyans, I noticed when Kenyans want a solution and they want solidarity, it becomes very difficult to stop them. But even in crisis, I know we've had a conversation. before, Steph,
Yeah.
on how to counter or to combat mis and disinformation during crisis. But we are even telling them, even during crisis, even when there is, there is political heat, we are still we actually should still be very, very, very much responsible, even with what we share. In fact, during crisis, that is actually when, in fact, from our anticipation, Steph, even as an organization, misinformation and disinformation is growing or is becoming more rampant as we approach 2027. And especially political mis and disinformation. So, but even in that crisis, we as young people can still become advocates of truth. We can still become advocates of truth. Because, Steph, we usually talk about creators of mis and disinformation, spreaders of mis and disinformation, and then we have funders or the sponsors of mis and disinformation. And then now we have the regulators.
Okay.
Yes. So the creators could be you and me. And that's, you either fall in those categories. You're either a creator or a spreader or you are a funder.
So the funder, who are the funders?
The funders of mis and disinformation, these are people who actually want to propagate these conspiracy theories majorly, but of course to achieve something. We have had this conversation, and many times we've been speaking of the economy of misinformation and disinformation, because it's an economy. There, in fact,
people who are benefiting,
it is worth
greatly
billions.
From it.
Yes, it's worth billions.
Wow.
We have had, the reason why we are saying it's worth billions, we've had people actually secure political positions out of propaganda, out of misinformation and disinformation. Yes.
Wow.
Deliberate lying. And I know people won't think I'm in a particular political side, but I'm just mentioning. But yes, it's true. It's true. We've had people actually even win, brands actually win the loyalty of their clients or even consumers out of propaganda.
But for brands, just
yes. So when we talk about the economy of mis and disinformation, it's an economy that is worth billions of money.
okay.
Yes. So these sponsors and the funders, they reap big. They could reap power, or actually even it also has monetary value. Yes.
Okay. So even as people spread this information, because I think many are just spreaders, many fall in the spreaders category for the local Mwananchi.
Yeah.
You
Wanjiko.
know, for the for Wanjiko. So they fall in the spreaders. So
Yes.
they should know that there are people who are benefiting from the spread of particularly false information.
Yes. There are always those who gain and there are always those who lose. Yes.
Okay.
And then of course now there are those who are just being used. Yes.
All right. And looking at the current revolution that we're in, the technological revolution that we're in, as you said, there's AI and there's that. But in Kenya, how people have been empowered in the digital space, we now have online media. You know, someone will just say something, I would go and interview someone, and then it's news. I've already put it out on my website. Like in the morning, I saw a news on Albert Ojwang's, the late Albert Ojwang's dad, saying that they lost 500,000, and that news could be true. And I'm saying could be because I've not verified it with the traditional media, like KBC or any other platform that is there.
Yes.
But you know, they're saying that there's a video that they had an interview with the uncle to the late Albert, and that's information that people have out there, and that could stir something in people. You know, so where did that money could start a whole conversation right there. So there's the competition between the online media and the traditional media. So what would you say? Should people just go with it as long as they, you know, they trust this particular online media because they're also making a career out of themselves, or should they really just go and verify with what traditional media has to say?
You know, what has happened with traditional media, of course, you know that the traditional media is structured, it's regulated, it's guided by ethics, by media ethics. There are media laws that govern traditional media. But I think, and what myself, I would actually even propose is for us to have reforms or even improvements, amendments to some of these laws, so that we can also be discussing, having this conversation of why should online media, why should a blogger release correct information, true information, faster than traditional media? And this blogger is seated in his house.
But I think I would have an answer for that.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Because you know what is happening, and that's why we are talking about crisis. People want information. Something has just happened, but you, Steph, what you're just telling us here on camera is, you know what, it is alleged that.
Yeah.
Like what was happening when we lost Kenya's CDF, the late Ogola. May his soul rest in peace.
Yeah.
And I remember what was happening with now the traditional media. They were saying it is alleged that top military officials could be in the chopper. But someone is here, an online media, someone is there, a blogger, has actually even stated the names.
Yeah.
He has given information. The information is out there. So and then now the question is, who do we trust? Because now we are talking about speed. Speed. So how do we enhance or even build the capacity of traditional media to give information real quick? I know, of course, there are processes, there are editorial rules, you know, and
if
blah,
we're
blah,
talking
blah.
about verification, then that should take time, and that's what I think the traditional media does.
Now, how do we enhance the speed at which now even the traditional media verifies and releases information? Actually, that's my point.
Okay.
Because the more we delay, the more it's actually just the same as the story in the Bible of the demoniac. I know we didn't come to talk about demons here, but the demoniac, you know, we see the scripture saying that when a demon leaves a person,
It creates room.
it creates room, and then when it keeps coming to check whether the room that it left is occupied,
Yeah.
and when it realizes that it is not
clean.
occupied, then it goes and looks for 7 stronger demons and tells
comes
them,
back.
come, someone is empty here, and then they'll come and down and then now have some housing in that person. It's the same concept. If you deny people information, they'll consume what is available.
Okay.
Yes, that's why you see here in Nairobi, you'll find people eating pizza all over. But when you go to Shags, and there is no KFC, there is no. I didn't come here to advertise anyone, but there is no. Such kind of eateries. You're going to be on top of trees eating avocados because that's what is
That
available.
is what is available.
Yes, that's what's available.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So if we do not supply information real quick, that's why I'm talking about the capacity of the traditional media. Then that's how we leave an open field for mis and disinformation to spread.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, what about you had mentioned the deep fakes, the videos, AI generated videos that look real. We have seen videos of the former US president dancing together with Kenya's president and the prime minister, and you know
the Pope playing basketball.
The Pope playing basketball. We've seen a lot of things, and people are creative to that extent. People are tech savvy. So how do we now, as the Mwanjiko, you know, how do you know that this video is fake? Because it looks real. It looks like Duncan. This is Dan. This is how he looks, and he's talking about something that is very controversial. Yeah. And in real sense, you're not. But that is what we're getting. So how am I supposed to take time? Because again, as you've said, things are fast-paced. Yes. I've seen this. It has angered me. I want to push it out so that 100 others will see, and the 100 others will push it to 10,000 others. So how does the common mwananchi really distinguish this, or who has who should regulate that, how that comes around?
You know, this is an emerging technology. Very few countries actually even have laws governing the use of AI, because many questions have actually arisen from that, from AI, artificial intelligence. Some of the questions would be even issues around copyright. Who owns that video anyway? Is it AI or is it the one who prompted it? Then again, the intention of this video, again, when it goes out there, who owns it? Who is to be held accountable? You see? So, and then now again, the implications now into how that kind of information is now, because what we are seeing is that it's becoming even more real as days go by. The AIs are getting improved every single day.
Yeah.
So, but what I can say, Steph, and this is something we've actually been mentioning very many times, that every single person needs to make it or needs to be very intentional in upscaling their skills on digital literacy. Because there are courses out there, there are lessons out there. Even we as an organization, as CRECO, we've been doing a lot of capacity building. Can you be deliberate to understand how do you identify an AI-generated image? How do you identify that? Imagine, Steph, myself, I have been actually dealing with these issues on mis and disinformation, issues around some of these emerging technologies for a very long time. And you can imagine, even today, there are times I'll first see something and I'll believe it fast. But now, of course, at least now for me, at least I have the second thought to say, stop, reflect, verify. I'll do some cross-referencing. I'll do some reverse image check. I'll do authenticity check for some of these images if it has actually been doctored, just to check and see whether this is genuine content that I'm consuming. So the main solution, Steph, make it a deliberate move yourself to upscale your capacity on digital literacy.
Okay.
Yes.
So it should be personal.
You have to be intentional.
Okay, personal thing.
Yeah.
Now, for people who are heavily reliant on the chatbots, particularly ChatGPT, you know, is this a reliable source to get information? Because some people will just go, like, you just hear some rumors and then you go to ChatGPT and say, was Duncan really at Y254? You know, just to get information. And ChatGPT knows a lot of things. So, but is it a reliable source of information?
Of course, this is machine learning. This is a platform that uses information based on what is actually out there in some of these search engines. It's actually giving information as it is out there online. But of course, now what they've done, they have put a number of layers. There is deep search that will give you links to the kind of content that is giving you. But many people actually use ChatGPT only with information without even doing some deep search, whereby if actually it gives you information, it should give you the reference. Where did I get this? Then you can visit that link and then check the authenticity of that link. Yes. Nowadays, I've actually even seen Grok on X. That is also people asking, Grok, is this true?
Is this true?
And then now you'll see, and then now you'll see it giving some information, which is a very interesting technology. So I must say that myself, I've actually used ChatGPT, and there is a time I remember I had asked for examples of specific scenarios in Kenya, and it gave me false examples. But of course, I should have now gone now to deep search or deep seeking, so that now I can get, where did you get this information? Because
so
for real, I got information there that was not
true,
suitable even in the Kenyan context. Yes.
Okay, so it can lie. So we need to go deeper into the
deeper
research.
And deeper. Let us not be complacent. In fact, laziness is the biggest enemy amongst the young people nowadays. Yes.
I was actually going to ask, why is it that the young people are the most targeted with this misinformation and disinformation?
It's actually because of their tech savvy. A young person, I mean, for me to spread a single piece of information, it's real quick. Kidogo, I'm on X, Facebook, on WhatsApp, and then very quick. It's on my status all over. And then now the young people are more connected online.
True.
Unlike now the older generation.
Yes.
The older generation, fine, they had their own bonding and the like, but it's not instantaneous as us.
And it's not online.
If I needed to talk to you, Steph, it's just pop, in just a snap. But the older people, lazima ajipange kidogo, pange watoto kidogo, apange kazi, biashara kidogo, and then I will call Steph in the evening.
Okay.
But for me, I can just drop a text, and then when you're free, you respond. Later on, I'll drop another one, and real quick. We are more dynamic. We are more fast-paced. And that makes us more susceptible, especially to this kind of misinformation and disinformation. We are very quick to spread. Very quick to spread.
I think, again, as you've said it, because even the older generation at some point, before all this, before the fast-pacedness and whatnot, they're also spreading a lot of false information.
A lot of it.
When it comes to, do this, you will get this, or there's that and that happening, because they were not, again, I don't know, aware, so they're easily carried away. The scams, nitumie pesa kwa hii namba, mimi nimepiga kutoka, hapa na hapa, they easily send. So they're more vulnerable to such.
Very.
But this current generation is, as much as tech savvy, they're also smart. They're also smart. And so, as you've said, if they get to become self-aware and take it personally, build capacity, then they're able to do this in a very, responsible way.
Yes.
Absolutely. And now let me ask you, to the leaders, or the leaders, because it's both ways, yeah? There are people, the normal wananchi, the bloggers, but there are also leaders who, again, propagate this false information. Now, is there anything that is being done to build their own capacity? Or are there laws that should also challenge them? Because I'm looking at not even just Kenyan leaders, but some things are insightful. Like the US president, some of his tweets, but not on Twitter, on his platform, Truth, what he said about the current war currently taking place between Iran, and what he says is very, very unlike presidential, if I put it that way.
I was actually going through some of the conversations that he has posted when I was coming to the studios.
Exactly. So something like that, but in a Kenyan context.
So, okay, of course, it's very interesting, Steph, because you asked a very important question, a very critical one, when we were starting the conversation. How is the online space in Kenya? And I mentioned dynamic, because what has happened is that many people have shifted ground from physical to the online space. Whether it's political campaigns, whether you want to propagate a particular agenda, they've shifted to the online space. And even when we are talking about building their capacity, before we even build their capacity, we have first to address, Steph, how we conduct our politics in this country.
Absolutely.
Because that is what is now being transferred into the digital platforms. Because we are we are now getting used to some kind of murky political culture. A culture of naming names, shaming people left, right, and center, and kind of you realize that whenever it's favorable to a specific faction, then especially the powers that be, then they are not held accountable. When it is not favorable to maybe another the powers that be, that political faction, then again they are held accountable, and then you'll see someone being told that they have violated or they have misused their computers, cyber. They call it cyber crimes. They've committed cyber crimes. So, but if we change how we do our politics, it's also going to reflect on social media. In fact, what you see on social media is a reflection of the society.
What is happening in the society.
Happening in society, even physically, actually. When you see some of the hashtags that are trending, it is actually a perfect representation of what is happening within the political class and also, again, within the public themselves.
Okay,
yes.
That makes a lot of sense. So it is a reflection of what is happening. So if it's corruption that is the problem, then that is what is being reflected, and that is what is only that it is heightened now that is on social media, and
Definitely.
that many young people who form the largest population are on social media.
Yes.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And now, what platforms are the most vulnerable? Are there platforms that are more vulnerable than others?
Yeah, I think it depends now with the countries, with the geographical locations and the like. But I would say X has become such a big platform.
Especially in Kenya.
Especially in Kenya, because X is the platform is actually, including the UI, the user interface, has been very well done to the extent that if you wanted a specific conversation, it's straight on there. You know, there are trends. I know Facebook, we also have stuff trending, but it's not easy to navigate the trends like X. You know, X is very easy. So you're able to chime in into conversations also and just throw in your opinion. Because I actually realized that Kenyans are very opinionated.
Yeah.
Kenyans, everyone knows. You know,
Kila mtu ako na
kila
say.
mtu anajua,
They know
kila
how
mtu
to
ako na
fix
say,
things.
they know how to fix things, you know, left, right, and center. In fact, you'll even see a very young, someone with 2 followers advising the president and telling the president, you know what, you better listen.
And they want their views to be respected.
Yes, and they want their views to be respected. And dare counter that kind of thinking. You'll be in for it. So, so X is quite a thing in Kenya. X is quite a thing in Kenya,
Absolutely.
but even globally. You've seen even in some of the big economies. In fact, I would say some of these leaders like Trump, I think Trump ripped big from X.
From X.
Yes.
And for him to step down, you know that. And,
Yes.
and a lot of people, celebrities also stepped down from X during the US elections, especially after Trump took over, just to show how X is influential.
Yes.
But as you've said, we're also seeing how TikTok has evolved from just a dancing platform to now, you know, even politics.
Yes.
Everything goes on
It's all over
TikTok,
there,
you know.
yeah.
It's amazing. And now I'd want you to, even as we come to a close on this conversation, to give us the practical tips of, because we're talking about navigating Kenya's online maze. So what are the practical tips to navigate this space?
I'll repeat a slogan that we've always mentioned. Stop. When you see any piece of information, stop. Hold.
No matter how exciting it is.
However exciting it is, even when it is confirmation bias. You know, confirmation bias is...
They've confirmed what you want.
They've confirmed what I want. You know, I want someone dead. I want someone kicked out of government. Or I want someone harassed. I want to go now online and see, has he or she been harassed? Has it happened or not? Even if it is confirmation bias, even if something that you've read suits very well with what you believe in, or actually even massages you so much, stop.
Okay.
Stop. Hold a bit. Then the next step is reflect. Think of it. Think, could it be otherwise? How about if it was the other way? Can I give them some benefit of doubt? Can I just check on some other platform? Can I just be sure whether this is actually the real account, or this is parody, or this is, you know, just reflect. Think of it.
Because there are many accounts. You find it's your favorite blogger, but that's not actually
fine, but
them.
think, you know, reflect. And then now verify. The verification, that's when you now cross-reference. Has KBC said this? Has Y254 also said this? And if they have said it, what angle have they given it? You know, if it is an image, you can do some reverse image check. You know, confirm, really. I mean, verify. And then once you verify, if it is correct information, now you can share. Okay. If actually it was exciting, please share. Excite yourself even further.
The truth.
Yes, it's the truth.
Okay.
Now and then, if it is false information, debunk. Tell people this is fake. Don't let people remain misled. And you know very well that this is not true information. But Steph, something very important. I would say the biggest and the greatest haste that we've had in the recent past is the theft of the truth. And the big question is, who is the custodian of the truth?
Okay.
And again, what is the measure of truth? And then how truthful is that truth?
Wow.
Do we have, because we now talk about half-truths?
And full truth.
Just food for thought.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is good. Who's the custodian of truth?
Yes.
I should ponder on that. Thank you very much, Duncan. I want to give you an opportunity to share your social media handles, and if you have any final remarks that you want to share, then this is your camera.
In your camera nyumbani.
Yes.
All right. So you can find us also on our social media platforms. At Creco, we do a lot of capacity building. At Creco Kenya on X, on Facebook, at Creco-Kenya, on Instagram at Creco Kenya. On LinkedIn is the full name, Constitution and Reform Education Consortium. Also on TikTok at Kreko Kenya. You can also find me on my personal handles at Duncan Maigua on X. On Facebook is Dan M. Kamau.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And now my final remarks.
Okay.
I would want to tell you and to tell every young person out there to be very intentional about building your skills on media literacy. Ensure that every information, before you share any information, just think of the consequences or the impact of the information that you want to share. So that before you share, you should know that I have a responsibility to be ethical. I have a responsibility to promote digital hygiene.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Steph.
Thank you very much,
Asante.
Duncan. Always a pleasure having you and you sharing such amazing insights. I've taken that it is my responsibility. Whatever I share online, it is my responsibility. So I should stop, think or reflect, verify, and then now decide what to do with that information. If it's true, I can share. If it's not, then I debunk. I just don't leave it at that. I hope you've taken something from this conversation. This is where we put a close on it, but there's more. Sakwa will be coming up with yet another interesting conversation, so stick with us.